GM, what's up, fam?
GM, thank you so much, OG, for joining us today. We're really excited to have you.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so sweet. I'm super hyped too. Can't wait.
so excited. Give a few
And
minutes and post
yeah, yeah, no rush.
some.
I want to say thank you so much for posting some of my artworks too. That means a lot to me. I never really I love to make art. I've been making every day since April of 22, but it's still like an adjustment for me. Sometimes to see the art, when I went on Brinkman's show, it was like my first collector show with like Brinkman and Adam Tastic. And we like prepped. They did such a good job. They're so like, I do show prep for my show too. And I mean, Adam and Brian go really deep. So anyway, I had talked about all these pieces and that I collected. And when I got on the show, we're talking, and then the first piece they put up, I'm like, wait a minute. That's not one I collected. That's one I made. And then they started talking to me about my art. And I was like, what the? And so
Amazing.
it just was like so. I don't know. It's cool for me to see that because it's just sort of something I never really thought about. We can get into that later, but yeah, I
That's,
appreciate it anyway.
that's amazing.
Good morning, OG. This is Matt. How you doing?
Hey, bud, how are you? Great to see you. Great to be
Good.
on here. Thanks for having me. This is
Oh,
pretty cool.
thanks for joining us, man. I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
Um, it feels so nice to get this opportunity, mostly so I can like lift up this space as best as possible. And so I think these are such wonderful, and I'm so appreciative that you would reach out and want to chat about stuff. So my pleasure. I'm so dumb. I'm like the worst. The story of my life is basically I'm like constantly. I have 4 kids, and I'm twice divorced, so I have half custody, and I'm the worst at doing like admin and scheduling. So I like forget all the time I agree to stuff, or so I I appreciate your patience with that. I'm constantly like, oh my god, I forgot I agreed to that like 3 weeks ago. They're totally reasonable, and I'm an idiot. I didn't put it in my calendar.
You're
So,
totally fine.
Oh, it's actually great to hear because you know what? It's like I feel like sometimes in Web3, sometimes people like to like pretend they're not real people, right? Like we all have our
oh
own shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like that is hilarious. It makes you even more human. Although I already you already are you already have great character and charisma. So, but
Oh,
it just
thanks,
makes me
thanks,
laugh. It
bro.
makes me laugh to hear that. It's good.
Oh
It's
no,
good.
for sure. Well, I'm the funny part too is not only am I like that, I'm also like maniacally weird about shit. Like for whatever reason, it's so dumb. But if somebody like passes me on to their assistant or sends me Calendly, like I'm like I want to do that to you. So it just always feels like so. So at the same time, I won't do. I get like bummed to do Calendly, and then what I have to do is the minute I get any kind of agreement, I have to immediately put it on my calendar, or else it doesn't exist. If it's in my calendar, I'm great. It's when I forget that big step. But where are you guys based?
I'm I'm out of Oregon, Portland, Oregon. It is a beautiful day, and I'm sitting outside. So you know we might hear a
Oh,
dog
bro,
barking or
I'm
some.
right a stone's throw from you. I'm in NorCal.
Oh, you are. I for some reason. Okay, I
Everyone
thought you
thinks
were
I'm from
from.
LA, right? You thought I was from
Yeah,
LA?
that's what I thought
Yeah.
exactly.
can,
Where in
can I tell
NorCal
you
are you?
something?
Yeah,
I
what?
It is so well. I would live in LA. I'm not stuck here. I love my house and so on, but if I had my druthers and like wouldn't be a bad dad and be away from my kids, I'd be in
Right.
LA in a second. So it might be just the vibe, but even people I talk to every day will come through and somebody will be like, yo, I was like coming through, I went through San Francisco last week. I'm like, why the fuck did you call me? And they're like, you live in San Francisco? I'm like, what the fuck? I don't live in, but I live like 16 miles north. So this literally, there's never been a person who has assumed I'm not from LA. It's the craziest fucking thing.
It,
Because I think I say Cali and they're like, of course LA, because
you
it is of course where I should be, but like everything else, I fucked that up too.
you just have more of a Southern Cal energy and
Yeah.
vibe. I'm sorry, I hate to stereotype
No,
you
no.
too,
Can I tell you
but
something?
I can't see you 60 miles north of San Francisco ever.
Okay. I
I mean,
live in a
I can. Go
I
ahead. Yeah.
live in a town
Yeah.
with that is it's I have like the poor man's house in this in this insanely like top 5 zip code in America little towns. So I stand out insanely. Like everybody looks the exact same, and so it's like super like crazy. I'll be like I'm the only guy who looks like this, like any like in the like 3 town area.
Do you,
So
do you tell them all to buy crypto and PFPs and meme
yeah,
coins? Do you just sit at the coffee shop and talk about it all day?
yeah, not enough. No, I just keep to myself, man.
You're
Actually,
right.
though, you know what? I in part of how I got into crypto. I mean, we can get it's a 907, or should we just keep talking? Is that cool? I'm cool with it. Whatever you
I
want.
don't know. Annie's the boss. By the way,
Yeah.
Annie's out of Dallas or Fort Worth, not Dallas.
Oh
Fort
no,
Worth, right? Right, Annie?
in 2012, I almost moved to Dallas, and yes, Fort Worth is
Right.
cowboy, and Dallas is Cosmo, right?
Yeah, yeah, he is, I think.
All right, Annie,
Perfect.
you're the boss. Do we need to get started, or is this like I
Let's
feel like
do
we're
that.
already
I
just
love
chatting? Like, isn't that the point?
it
Go
is
ahead.
the point. I do love that. I just want to give a warm welcome to everyone that's joining us and is coming in to listen to this conversation with OG. We do want to let you know that like halfway through, we're just going to invite people up. If you want to ask OG a question, feel free, join the conversation. It is a free flow. For those that don't know, the voice behind Light Art is Abrahani. My face is down there, but you're welcome to join us on stage if you have a question. But first we're just going to get started with a few Q&A here as a short interview to OG and then, free flow from there. But I love that the conversation did get started. So for those that haven't shared or if you're able to share, we would love for more people to join us and hear from OG. He has so many nuggets to share. He's constantly on spaces, sharing nuggets, information for artists and others, collectors and creators as he is both. And so, please share the word, give us a little shout out. That would be so awesome. But yeah, let's get started. Matt, go ahead, take it away.
Oh, gee. Uh-oh. Annie gave us the mic back. This could be a problem. But she did give me instructions, so I'm going to at least follow the
Okay,
instructions for the first
let's
30
rock,
seconds.
baby. Hit me.
Let's rock. Yeah, like, so, you already started really well, but like, tell us, who is OG? What's your story? What do you want to share with this group?
It's always a funny kind of question to answer, like we talked about at the beginning a bit. Um, who is OG? Well, honestly, what motivates me, I used to work in corporate environment and was CEO of companies, and I had all these plans in my personal life and in my business life and social life. And without getting into details, I had 2 divorces and I ended up sort of losing my own company and a whole bunch of stuff. And I switched for many years. I believed I grew up in a environment when like showing emotions was like not allowed or whatever, or not, you couldn't really like talk about your emotions and so on. And so over the last, I sort of hit this point in life where I thought I'd achieved everything I wanted in 2011, or they told me to. I was like, fuck, I'm miserable. So it took me like over a decade. And what I want to achieve is going to sound old me. I always joke, old me would like kick the shit out of new me, but I like new me so much better. But what I think is like most of us run on our brain and our heart in this world. And the brain and the heart evolutionarily, like, are basically to defend you from constant risks. So they're constantly like assessing what bad stuff can happen and protecting you. And what I think is like the only way you get happiness is from the soul. And it used to be troubling to me to think of a figure, a God figure in whatever religion and so on. There's a like, we project a human construct. When I switched, I had a whole series of experiences I won't bore you with. I've already talked too long. Um, is when I sort of like lost it all the last time. I was like, fuck, man, I can't bear this again. So the universe at that point presented me like, let me start hearing my own soul. And the construct that helps me is because you can look at it and see it is there's this giant universe that we can like see with our eyes, parts of it. The only joy and connection we get is from taking the signals from the universe, which come in our soul, and following those. And so I've really changed my entire life, and it sounds insane, but I've done a huge number of things, from stopping reading news or stop focusing on anything I don't control, and solely in every moment doing my best to listen to what my soul tells me. And so, very long answer, but I believe I always thought, like, man, I'm this weird Martian. Like, why am I all these weird fucking things in like one person? And what I really believe is, like, it was all to be here now and to help lift up the space and set an example as best I can of the behaviors we want to see, and to bring together as many people as possible to help this space and the people in it get the biggest possible opportunity. Because to me, like, I've been lucky I get along with people, but I was always like, fuck, why are people like this? It's so fucking weird. And then I met people in this, and I was like, God, oh my God, like, there is normal, you know? And so to me, I think, I don't know, so that's what I'm here to do. Is I'm like older, I'm 49. I don't want to be in the front. My dream in life is people achieve their greatness, and it's them achieving it. But they're like, without OG, like, it never would have been possible. And that's what motivates me.
I think that's really cool. I think that's, well, you said you were CEO of a company. I don't know if you owned your own business or not. Do
Yeah.
you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Well, so my history in brief is I grew up in Canada. My
Hmm.
dad and mom are from St. Kitts, a little island in the Caribbean, dirt roads and shit. And my dad, by the time he was 24, he's super smart, had a PhD in finance from Columbia. When I was 13, like, we didn't talk sports. When I was 13 at the dinner table, and the breakfast table, my dad would have the old school newspaper with a highlighter highlighting stock prices and talk to us about inventory. When I was 15, I was competing in national stock market competitions. And back then, it's how old I am. You had to use a phone to phone in your orders, and they gave you a limited number of orders. At one point, I was third in Canada when I was 15. I ended up 24th in Canada. And so I always, when I was younger, considered myself a finance person. And so I did over a decade in finance. I worked for Steve Cohen, who they made the show Billions, who has like $1 billion art collection. In '07 and during the '08 crash. That's a funny story. But then from '09 till 2021, '09 to 2011, I was CEO of a Canadian glue company, the second biggest glue company in Canada, and I did a turnaround. Then my biggest corporate thing was I came as CEO of two companies. One was 12 million that made this random product, and the other was 28 million when I joined. And it made powder coatings, which is a environmentally friendly form of paint. So, like, big companies like Sherwin-Williams, Axo, PPG are the competitors. And when I joined in 2011, that company was 28 million. The entire powder coatings company market in America was a billion. The three biggest companies, the public companies, were 200 million, 200 million, 200 million. 10 years later, when I was had to resign, or chose to resign, not had to. I chose as a matter of code to walk away from like nine figures on principle, because that's how fucking stupid I am. But I built this company from 28 million. So the three biggest companies were 200 million each, or 60% of the market. I was um, 2.8% of the market. I like to say I'm the Jack Butcher of powder coatings. 10 years later, when I resigned, the company was 114 million, and they were 220 million each, and I had received a huge offer, which we said no to. So, yes, absolutely. I consider myself a finance person. I have a CFA and an MBA from Columbia. And I think one of the things I hopefully bring to this industry is it's wonderful. There's a lot of younger people in this industry, and a lot of people from like creative industries and design. There's fewer people who have built and run companies. Like when I started, I had about 60 employees between the two companies. When I left, it was 448 employees. And so I added 100 million in sales. And so I just think it's a kind of a unique thing, because why most business, look, there's no sustainable model proven yet in this industry. Like the industry is changing so fast. It had a insane bubble because of a new industry combined with NBA Top Shot combined with COVID and people getting stimulus checks created, as I've seen in many industries, a bubble, but this one of epic fucking proportions. And so I think finally now, like, look, there's been no sustainable model. And I think one of the perspectives I can bring is like a lot of artists I deal with, what I've learned is everyone's focused on success. And when you have success, it's actually much easier. What you need to focus on is not making mistakes and how to prevent problems. And I had to learn this the hard way. I'm still living the constraints of decisions from years ago and mistakes. And so the other thing I think I could bring is like how to approach things. And I work with a lot of artists. Like, here's how to minimize the risk of you ending your career. And when I have consulted with companies, like I consulted with Super Rare for 7 months and some other stuff, that's the thing I'm always constantly telling them. It's like you need to focus on not making big mistakes. And so between these two things, there really hasn't been anyone. There's no model where, like, if you go in many industries, I'm not saying it's right or easy, but it's not like crazy to think through your career path. You join like whatever, restoration hardware as and you're like, oh, if it goes well, here's my path. And so I think us discovering as a community sustainable paths over time will be important. Like in the traditional art market, there's like sort of there's roles. And so I think they're going to be very different here, but I think formulating those is critical and creating sort of examples of success that isn't scammy or extracting.
Man, there was so much there to unpack, and we have to get to conversation in about 10 minutes. But geez, oh gee, you and I got to talk.
Sorry, man. I'll try to
I hear
answer faster.
no, that was
Okay.
unbelievable. That was great. But no, keep talking. But that was like, I hear what you're saying, and I totally I love, I'm an entrepreneur, and I had a laugh way back a few minutes ago when you said the last time I lost it all, but you sounded like, and I give you credit for this, like that is the last fucking time you lost it all. You're never going to lose it all again. And as an entrepreneur, that's tough. Like you have to make significant changes because an entrepreneur, if you are trying to limit mistakes,
worse for me.
You're always at risk of losing it, right? Because you look right. So, but anyways, so real quick, I'm going to jump past.
Well, can I just say one quick thing on that? Because it's
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. Go for it.
What was worst for me emotionally was I didn't lose anything because of performance. In fact, one of the places I've always, it has been a hard transition for me getting my satisfaction is like professional performance. I lost it to lawyers and lawsuits.
Yeah.
And and that's part of what motivates me. Like some of these experiences I had, look, I always say like, why not me? Not why me, but you ask what motivates me. Like if I have to divide all this, not that everyone's had a ton of pain and I'm very cautious to sound like, hey, I think I have like a fucking special anything. I'm not special. But to me and to people around me who I know, Sam Spratt told me, he's like, Jesus, OG, like you've had a lot of like violence in your life. Like, and he didn't mean physical, though unfortunately that too. He meant like emotional and otherwise. So I think like those mistakes feel terrible if like only I can learn from them. But if I'm like, yo, I'm a person and here's what's going to happen to you and you're going to be okay. But I did this terrible shit and here's what I learned. So hopefully you don't fucking go do some dumb shit like I did. Sorry, go ahead. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the challenge of Web3, right? Like you're a voice of reason, you're a voice of experience, and things like minimize the downside risk. And then, I always believe that, the longer you stay in business or in a project, the more likely it is you're going to get lucky. You just keep working.
You have to be there to get lucky. Yeah. I would say you have to survive. If you're not there, it don't matter that the luck came.
You can't be there if you blow it all right away.
Chance favors the prepared mind. Exactly.
Yeah, if you get bored and you bust, if you bust, you can't be there. When you lose all your chips, you're gone. But if you can keep a few chips till you get lucky, and that of course is, I'm speaking the obvious here, but that of course is one of the challenges with Web3 is there's such a lack of patience in this community, and I feel like we would all be wise to listen to people who have had life experiences that you've had. It would be amazing, and that's the challenge. It's like, how do we get people? Like, why does everybody have to reinvent the wheel if the wheel is flat? Like, like,
So I
can't
think
people
no,
learn
I'll
from
tell
others'
you.
mistakes? Yeah.
I think the two biggest mistakes humans make, and I'm human, so I'm sure I make them all the time too, is one, none of us. You can either say all of us are special or none of us are special. But the biggest mistake one is humans apply a different set of rules to themselves than others, and thus they always think when they read a political article that the people are idiots and they could solve it, or they look back at what somebody did and they think they could have done it better. And so that's number one. And number two is people don't see reality as it is. They're like, I wish like small artists had a chance. And then they're like, bring that to the universe. The universe just is. There's no better, worse, good, bad. At any given time in history, shit we now think is bad was good and vice versa. So not being able to see realities. The start of everything is what's reality, and then how I feel about it and all that shit matters to me, but it don't change how things are. And so between thinking people are special and not leading and supporting that they don't see reality, then your whole life gets fucked up from there. And on the lack of patience, I think phones are a fucking terror and have changed but yeah, anyway.
Annie, jump in.
Oh my gosh, I want him to keep talking. I feel like there's so
Okay.
much to unpack in this conversation, especially as you brought up the impatience and the growth that comes by being patient, especially as an artist and going through the cycles and learning from each cycle, which I think we're very impatient and we want to transition really quickly, or we feel left out, and things are
And
moving
people
rather.
can't take like, I hate to say it. Look, society's trying to eliminate suffering, and that's correct. If you combine that and with phones, like basically people are like, what? I have to fucking click twice? This is insane. And so I think like nobody can have discomfort now, even for a minute. The minute they start feeling discomfort, like uncomfortable, they like pick up their cell phone and start staring at it to like numb themselves. So, I will tie this to art. So a recent piece I connect. So a while back, I posted for me an important, like I was sitting around and I was realizing like how much my phone was stressing me the fuck out. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to try to do no phone time. And it was literally like worse than like quitting. I can't think of much that I've quit that was like harder than putting my phone down for 1 fucking hour. And so I started this whole exploration of like the phone, and I did a big post. And then the homie Mendez, who's on my show this week, with Timbers and Mod Dog, uh, made this amazing piece recently that I got of like, an image of people walking into a cell phone and coming out hunched on the other side that to me was just as usual. Like, I think there's very few artists who can pull off releasing, like creating and releasing quality work or at scale. And like the maximal strategy in digital art to date has been the opposite of what you would recommend in trad art. And you look at, we're talking about it later today, actually, right after this pod, Jack Butcher, just having this like endless supply. So Mendez, Jack Butcher, Die with the Most Likes, and to me now Mendez are three artists who have mastered this. And so I'm super into his work, and I think capturing these important giant concepts in a visually consistent and pleasing way using a mix of technologies to create the work. Like his process is super cool. Um, to me, is a great sort of piece of art that reflects in a collect, my, a tie between something I've been posting about and then the universe delivering me Mendez's recent piece. So
Oh, gee, I saw that piece. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it's fucking
It's a
dope,
great piece.
right? Yeah, it's
It's dope.
insane.
I also loved seeing all our friends whining that you beat them too.
Yeah.
I'm like, age, where's your
I
fucking
know.
back? That hasn't happened since
Yeah.
2021. People on the timeline whining that you beat them. That was great.
Well, I've been like ninja lately, so like when MRCR put out that super dope piece with McDonald's, I was like, we were chatting and if fucking Lansky opened the bidding, I was just about to pick that off. Mendez, I came in early and hot. I've had a few of those where the person's like, sorry, dude. Like, oh, I love that. And to me, that's another sign. We were talking about the market. Like I said, it exploded, like, and got destroyed down 95%, whatever. I'm starting to see evidence coming out of collections I know super well, or just this vibe, like you said. You jokingly said it, but it sort of represents a change in tone where all of a sudden people are fighting for art. And we're all of a sudden, for a long period here, it's been like artists sell under 1 ETH or above 10. All of a sudden, artists are drifting back up to like 2 ETH and shit like that, where like, so you're seeing some like reset in prices. I won't go into details, but like, the Jack's universe is the digital art market was like allegedly $1.3 billion last year. Jack Butcher did 170,000 ETH in his projects. Like, so he's like a third of that almost. So I know his collection as well. And they also are like so liquid that they can exhibit the traits of what's happening much more quickly than in other collections because the volumes, you know, are high. And so when I got into that collection, by luck of the universe, there were all these things like that shouldn't be around. Like there was, without boring you again, there's like mathematical relationships in the checks that it took me months to figure this shit out. You need like a PhD, but it's cool. It's amazingly cool when you do. But there were like what I'd call mathematical mispricings, meaning because you combine 280 checks into a 40, in theory, your alternative to buying a 40 is buying 280s and creating it. So when I first joined, like got active, like 4 months ago in Jack's universe, late as always, there were all these insane things like big mispricings where like that math I told you didn't hold true. And I'm like, well, this is fucking insane. Now all those are gone. And if you take like O'Peppins as another example, when I started, unrevealeds, which represent optionality on the future of the project. The way O'Peppin works is you have to submit and commit like an unrevealed O'Peppin of the edition size to curate and pass an artist. Those used to be cheaper than a lot of the revealed art, which is basically saying like, yo, the future is going to be worse than the past in theory. Like that's an oversimplification. But now in what seems insanity, one of Jack's revealed O'Peppins is the floor. And people have been sweeping the unrevealed. Like there were two like 20 plus sweeps. And so why I say that is like, that is evidence because if you buy an unrevealed, you are literally buying optionality on future revealed. So the fact that those went from being the cheapest to now much more expensive is sort of a real financial indicator that people are willing to bet more on the future than on the things that were revealed. So to me, these are big, important things. And look, it's always obvious in hindsight. Everyone always thinks they knew. And so I've made a habit in my life of like forced journaling when I do stuff that I've now sort of trained myself much more, but I used to do for a long time, like when I was a professional investor. I would write a journal and I'd be honest and I'd be like, I really bought this because like some motherfucker I think is smart. And then I went and did the research to support buying it. And here's what I hoped for. And here's what I didn't. And then when shit happened, I found each time something happened, I was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And then I look back at the notes. I'm like, no, I fucking didn't, you idiot. You know? So anyway, I think this will look, everything seems more obvious. Like, again, I connected with Die with the Most Likes in mid 22. and we started DMing in like with his work in mid 22. I started DMing with him in September 22. And if you went around in September 22, like I did, being like, yo, this is an artist of our generation, and people looked at it like, what in the fuck is wrong with you? Now everyone's like, oh, obvious. It's so obvious. I'm like, fucking, it wasn't obvious when I said that to you. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important to understand that at the time, it's never as clear. So it's not clear. It feels like 2025 is going to be good. I actually, if it's not, then I think it's time to reassess how this industry is structured, because if it can't start showing like secular growth, then it won't be able to support the ecosystem. And so it's essential that we show that growth. And these signs, look, like I said, remember what I told you? All humans make mistakes. We think we're special. We think we know shit. So I'm human too, so I'm a fucking idiot. I'm still saying all this. But to the best of my ability at looking at reality as it is, and sort of, I talk to people in this game like all fucking day, every day, and people come over. Yesterday, Blake the artist was here. We were hanging out. Like, I just like, sometimes you can't explain. This is soul again. You just feel the energy, man. I don't know. And it does feel, look, anyone who's here has to be either a fucking idiot or a glutton for pain and punishment or a fucking true believer. So, cause you know, it hasn't been a profitable endeavor for many. So,
Hey, OG, I want to pick up on something real quick, and then Annie, then maybe we can bring some people up. But this is a new convo, so it may go for a while. You said something there about Jack that was very interesting to me, and it's one of my passions, and I feel like I'm screaming like against a wall, and that is, so Jack's got about a 33% market share, but what you said was his work is liquid, and to me that's the key. People, collectors will invest in pieces that are liquid, and they hesitate to support art that is illiquid, meaning there's no secondary. And for me personally, I know that's the case, because if I make a decision to buy a piece of art that I love and I really vibe with, but there's no secondary, then the real world is I have to go to my financial side. It's like, do I know for sure I could give this much money to this, invest this much money to help the artist? And do I know for sure I never need that money back again? Or is there a chance that things in life might change and I need a little bit of it back? I don't need to necessarily make money. I don't, but I need, to me, and I think there's a lot of collectors in this boat, it's important to know that if I buy something and then something in life comes up, I gotta be able to get half of it back or something back. And I feel like, that's why a lot of artists are asking, well, why is everything going to the big artists? And I'm like, it's the liquidity. It's what it is. And so it's like, I think the lack of a secondary market for most artists will stop us from achieving success. And so number one, do you agree with that? And if you do, how do collectors create a secondary? I mean, I feel like there's too many collectors that are like, oh no, I just want to buy it from the artist. I don't want to buy in the secondary because it doesn't help the artist. And I think it's the opposite. I think the secondary is absolutely crucial for artists' long-term success. Do you have any thoughts on that?
as you might imagine, a lot.
Yeah.
Think about this nonstop all the time. And so,
So how do we
I
do it,
think,
man? How do we
okay,
create a
here's what I
secondary?
think.
Tell us how to create a
Well,
secondary.
I think, again, so I'd start in a different place. So, what's reality in art? In the history of art, it's been generally a wealthy undertaking financed by the church, nobles, and rich motherfuckers. If you look at the history of contemporary art, 100 artists and 4 galleries, Gagosian, and, I always like forget the names of the others under pressure. So 100 artists and 4 galleries. If you look at publicly available data, because this is a blockchain, last time I checked, and it's the same as happening. So let's start with
Oh, but I hate
wait,
that.
no, let me finish.
I don't want to interrupt. You're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right, but I hate it. Come on, give it some new thought, man.
No,
Help us out.
let me get there, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
will.
no, I love it though. Love it. And that's what I'm saying. Reality sucks, right? Like, I wish it wasn't that way and I do as much as I can to change it. But, okay. So, what do we do about this liquidity question and artists and so on? So my honest answer to date, and I wish I had a better one, brother. Absolutely. If you get institutions, so one other big huge thing is we're only talking about like individuals. If if you look at institutional investors, which I was one professionally, is you literally cannot actually invest in stuff because when, say you raise $100 million fund, which might sound like a lot, but it's not really a lot in like fund land. That's like nothing. You go to deploy it. When I worked for Steve Cohen, we had all kinds of liquidity metrics we had to meet. But even if you don't have those, you need to deploy enough capital. Like what I do in my collecting is super focused now on like artists and want to own like a bunch of one artist that I think, because otherwise, like if it does well and I own like one edition, which just happened to me recently, I'm like, fucking idiot, you know, like, so I think like to scale in an artist and to have impact and to benefit, you know, not even financially, because I would sell art, but I sell PFPs and not art. I'm not yet anyway. So I won't say I would never, but I haven't to date. So I think there's that constraint. And then here's the thing. I think I was just talking with an artist yesterday. Starting in early 23, and when I first came in at the end of 21 and 22, I was like buying one-on-ones, mostly on foundation, on the hope that the people would get onto, like, for the artists, like, thinking they would grow and get on Super Rare when Super Rare used to command a premium. And I had all one-on-ones. And, like, I have this discussion with people a lot, and a lot of big collectors keep telling me one-on-ones will come back. Starting in, and I still buy occasional one-on-ones, especially ones with structure that I like. But I used to buy, like, rares and one-of-ones. What I think is, and I learned this, like, Red Light District from OSF to me was the first, like, Jake the DGen invented the, like, token, to the best of my knowledge, like the art token. OSF took that concept and to me was early in understanding that when you have a group of collectors who all focus on one part of a project, like on one project, and that project has in it not a gimmicky, but an inherent mechanism for continuing interest, i.e. every month a new picture comes out and motherfuckers can talk about it and ask about it or do whatever. You form a community. And those people begin to show up and identify as part of that community. So I think the advice, a lot of artists and projects try to do gimmicky stuff where you like need to know lore and they think, oh, that'll get people back. Like if you have 2, you know, toads asses and 3 dragons, you get a hoop-de-hoop. And it's like, I think that kind of stuff that's forced doesn't make sense, but anything that's natural. So I think if an artist has 100 collectors, or in, say, Red Light District, like OSF, when I bought my 101, it came with 3 times the drops of Red Light District. OSF stopped doing that. And then he focused solely on Red Light District. Why? Because it's like hundreds of people. They're all there to buy art every month. They're all dedicating their life to this community. And so I think where the fight for artists is now and how to think about it is like, so I started with piano, like ACK's piano was the first one where I went into that being like, yo, I'm going to start collecting the defining collections of like artists I think are huge or will be huge. So then I did Sam Spratt's Players Edition. Then like there's a bunch of little projects like this where you're like Jules' is Flowers recently comes to mind, and Subtle Bubble. You know, Sippies is like that in my opinion, or where like it's sort of like these art collections that people rally around. And like, that's my project. We drop like art every month or 2. And I just think it gives a natural way to create a community where they keep coming back. And from the artist perspective, you have 5 one-on-one buyers and 200 people in one collection. At the end of the day, those 200 people are so many more people and have such a bigger, wider impact that it's sort of, you can't create a community with people who just own separate pieces and no reason to come and talk to you. Like, yo, you own a fucking battery? I own a battery too. Cool, brah. You know, like you just sort of like run out of shit. Like there was some, I won't call them out, but some PFP projects I got in where like every day all the motherfuckers do is talk about the traits. And after like 1 year of talking about the traits, I'm like, fuck, bro, I want to die here, you know? So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's if you're an artist, like again, you people try to do this by seeing what works and then copy it. It has to be organic and authentic to you, and the mechanism has to reflect what your art communicates, and then rally people in your community around a collection where they're proud and feel a part of it. And that's, to me, the proper way to sort of start using this digital medium. And then, as I said, the maximal strategy is like the Jack Butcher strategy, like if it works, but it's mostly in my, as Jack would say, it's not a supply problem, it's a demand problem. Like for most artists, they've survived in history with like 3 or 4 collectors. You know, it wasn't until recently, you know, with some exceptions, of course, the stars. And so I'm not saying anything absolute, but generally like framework wise. So most big artists, even in this community, have like a few key collectors who are like essential. So transitioning to where you have a much broader, diversified collector base that builds a community, like in my view, is now a requirement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Annie, do you want to bring some people up?
Absolutely. And you give so much to talk about, especially when it comes to community. Building your own community. That's amazing. We're going to keep that going. In the meantime, if you want to ask OG a question, please request to come up and request to speak, especially on topic. And so we have a lot of friends in the house. We
No
do,
shilling, no shilling.
yeah, no,
I like when people are like, oh gee, I'd like to ask you a question. My project is I love
Hey,
that.
while we're waiting for people to come up, I do have a question because completely off topic.
Hit
And
me.
so Annie, you
My
can kick me
favorite,
up
baby.
if you want, but we were doing our research and our getting ready just to show you that Annie and I, we work hard in getting ready
Good.
for this. And one of our sources told us, I don't really have the full question, but we have to ask you something about a chicken coop or
Yeah,
something.
dude.
Apparently,
I wish we were on
tell
video.
us about it.
So
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
no, it was
Oh,
to
No.
be specific about the
Go.
backyard coop beehive on the space.
yeah.
Oh, you are so organized,
Wow.
Annie. All I remember was
Okay.
chicken
I
coop.
like it.
Yeah.
You guys don't NFA. Not fucking around. I love it. I was a city dude my whole life, you know. And as I told you, like I sort of hit this period where I thought I'd done everything I was supposed to do, and I was like, fuck, I'm more miserable. So one of the things in 2017, for the first time, I moved outside the city, not far, but to like a sort of, you know, much different where people have houses and some land and some other stuff. So I got a house with like a third of an acre. And one of the things I think like we sort of touched on it here, maybe not articulated this way, is one of the greatest sources of unhappiness in our life is disconnection. We come from a species that used to like, you know, all live, eat, work, play, do other stuff together. And so now I find like most of us live these, even I hate to say it when you're married sometimes, but like these individual lives where we're like mostly alone with stuff and it's mostly disconnected. Like the food you eat just appears. The music you listen to just appears. The beer and weed you drink or smoke just appears. So I had this crazy idea. I was like, fuck, everything I'm into. I'm a nerd, as you can tell, like big time. I'm like, everything I fuck with, I'm gonna like learn about it. And so I moved out here and I started Crooked West in my name. So I had a Twitter account with 100 followers before I started NFTs. And it was called Crooked West because I started brewing my own beer. I took classes at UC Davis, which is close to where I live and is like the premier like viticulture school in America, to my knowledge. And I started brewing my own beer. I taught myself to grow weed indoor, outdoor, like hydroponic. I got chickens to get the eggs and to feed them the spent grain from the brewing. I used to take honey in my coffee every day, so I got beehives to get the honey. I like eating food, so I have galvanized grow tanks, like 7 of them that I put in and install myself that I grow crops, like 3 different a year. And then I have a ton of fruit trees and a whole garden I tend to. So Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, I love people come through here now, like a fair amount of shit. It's cool, but it's the first, I always joke, I ask artists, when was the moment like you knew you could be an artist? And I remember the moment I was shut down from being an artist when this like ninth grade art teacher told me like my work was like the worst ever and I should ever make more work and shit. I was like, you fuck. So the first big project I took on when I moved out here was like redesigning my entire yard. And my parents and my ex-wife were like, we need an engineer and a designer and all this shit. I'm like, nah, I got this. So now though, I'm like, I took like years of hassles. Like I personally like taught myself to I cut down a 23-foot redwood tree, like all kinds of crazy shit. So for me, look, we're not entitled to be happy. Nobody said shit was easy and happy. And so you have to work. Like nobody's supposed to go to the fucking gym once and have like, look like fucking whoever, muscle man. So, like The Rock or whatever. So yeah, I just think you have to work every day on being happy. The way to be happy, being into cool shit and then learning more about it every day. I tell my kids, like, it's a free chance to be happy every day. You like, love this thing and you learn a bit more about it. You put your hands in the dirt, it feels good. So, yeah. Good
Boss.
question.
You are
Good
a boss.
question.
I love that though, because everything in life takes dedication. If you really want something in life, it takes dedication. And a lot of us artists, you were saying earlier, you got to be a masochist or really here for the art or really here committed. And most of the artists are really here because we believe in what we do, but we have to learn this ecosystem and financial ecosystem that we're still getting a hold of. And the
Yeah.
reality is, it ain't easy and it ain't something that's comfortable, but it's also not common sense. Like you have to learn and you got to be here. You got to ask questions and you got to surround yourself with the people that have answers. And so we're just so honored that you're here sharing
Uh,
some of them. And
and
I
can I
love,
tell people one thing?
yeah,
Here's a simple way to do this. It's shocking to me. Going back to what I said is like people want stuff to be a certain way. So when they hear something that fits with that way, they don't subject it to scrutiny. So what I find is people all the time will repeat back to me shit that with one input into fucking Google or Claude, you can find out. So for example, I was at my kids' soccer game this weekend and a bunch of the parents were like, oh, I heard that the people who designed San Quentin designed the high school. And they're all like, yeah, I heard that. I heard that. I literally like pick up my phone and I type like 5 words into Google and I find out who designed San Quentin and who designed the high school. I'm like, actually, if you type in Google, you'll see it was designed by two separate people. So these people have been running around the last month, year, whatever, telling everybody this thing because it sounds like something they want to believe to be true. Like, oh yeah, our kids are in a school designed by the jail, San Quentin jail. And I'm like, it's all just bullshit, yo. And you could have, with 5 fucking seconds when somebody told you that. When I first do, people get mad. Like, they'll be like, but some people tell me about something and I'm writing Claude right there with, like, as they're telling me, like, asking Claude, searching Google, because I'm like, I don't know if it's true or not. Let me check. So it's a simple thing. Just do that at least. Just do that little tiny thing if you start repeating something. Just make sure it's actually, to the best of your ability, a fact and not some fucking bullshit somebody told you that sounded good, and that you're now a vessel for like sharing lies.
dude, that's on point. And as a fellow soccer mom, I
Yeah.
salute you because that takes hard work.
Yeah. Single dad
So,
ain't easy either.
no, it ain't. But listen, we have someone on stage. My lovely sister Rachel is here on stage, and let's ask away, Rachel, please. We want to hear from you.
Hello, hello. Hi, Abraham. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. It's been a while. Amazing space, OG. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh, my pleasure.
No, it's like really fun to actually just rediscover, or I think I've known about you, but I just discovered you recently, and I'm like, oh wow, a collector. This is amazing. So awesome. But can I just like chime into the conversation about secondary sales? Yeah, okay, cool. One, I agree with OG here with what he said previously about artists needing to grow a community of, active collectors and supporters, because that will facilitate a more healthy secondary sale, sort of ecosystem. But like, I just wanted to it got me thinking, and like my brain's kind of like going all over the place. Sorry, it's like midnight here. And I was thinking of how the volume that all these like really big top collectors buy art means that they do need that liquidity that Matt mentioned to continue. Like they do need to consider that sort of like aspect of art collecting to continue collecting art, especially at the level that they do this. That was just one point that just like brought to mind. But then also I was thinking about time. Value goes up with art over time. It takes time for it to do so. And, we are still at the super beginning sort of moments of digital NFT art. And I think we need to like kind of look at things from like a more realistic standpoint on, okay, so if I sell my artwork, can I realistically, promise or believe or even strive for my art to go up in value like a stock option or like a shitcoin? Like, I really don't think we should as artists be thinking or
No, I
putting
don't think you
that.
need to think about that. Here's what you got to think
Yeah.
about as an artist.
Yeah,
You don't control any
absolutely.
of that shit. Life starts with focus on what you control. I always tell artists, don't post about floor price. It's public and nobody fucking needs to know. Like, if they want to know about it. What you need to do and focus on is, like, as an artist, you're saying something and you're saying it in a certain way, and you have like, you're sharing hopefully something that's like deep from your soul, and you have to do it. If you look at X Copy, you look at Die, you look at these people like everyday motherfuckers have to make this art no matter what. And they were making it before it sold at high prices, and they'd be making it if it wasn't. So to me, you don't control floor price. You don't control liquidity. You don't control any of that shit. So don't focus on it. You require it to be successful. What you should focus on is what I said, the tangible. Focus on, hey, what can I do that's unique to me, that's authentic, that nobody else can do because they ain't fucking me? Then release that in a smart way to create a group of people who vibe with you hard and can vibe with each other. And that's what you should focus on entirely, and spending time on talking to those people, and don't spend any time on this other part. You have to be aware of it because you can't continue and thrive. Like I always say, like, look, I've never taken $1 yet for anything except formal consulting, which was like a professional agreement. My show, nothing. And so, like, money though does let you have more positive impact. If an artist has, like, if you look at the market until like, sometimes it's hard now with the years. I think like April 23 is when this started going off. But when people were buying in the early days, the artists would take that money and buy more art. And so I think, like, to some level, like, artists being able to accomplish their dreams, whether we like it or not, requires money. And so you just have to be aware, because, like, to support others and to build your own community, you need money. But I'm not like, I don't look at any Twitter analytics. I've looked at them like 4 times. I don't want to ever hear like what drives stuff on Twitter because it'll get in my head and I won't forget it. But I have to be aware generally if I'm going to eventually like do stuff of like, where am I roughly? And so whatever that looks like for you, which is an awareness, an acceptance that all you can do to control that is what you would do without that there, which is focus on making the best art and being the best to your collectors and to the community and so on. And that's the shit you should focus on.
So I have a question then, following up on that. How much do you, when you see like a new piece of art or a new artist, how much do you kind of research that artist before you decide on collecting them? And then how does that change based on the price of that piece of art that you want to collect? Or does it not change?
So let me think about how to answer this right. I've been grinding at this shit full time since like November 21. When I got into it like my first big piece of art was OSF's dinner. And that's when I bought like a big one-on-one. And I started making art every single day from then on. And in my own project, my first 2 seasons when it was Money Click, I dropped something like 20 artists. And for each of those artists, I would have a spaces. And for each of those spaces, I would have a pre-meeting. So by the time we're here now, let me say, I sometimes struggle to communicate facts correctly, like in a way that doesn't sound obnoxious. Um, Most of the time, here's the 2 ways I find out. So either I've known the person for a while, like Mendez, I've been fucking with since Mondog and Alpha Dog introduced me to him in 22. I owned like one edition, but then the universe pushed me to him, and then it was just like I opened my soul and it told me go look. So there's much of that now, and I'm sort of lucked out now. It's much easier for me with the show, and because I don't know, people know me a little better in the community. But like, I'm always every day, all day talking to artists. So like, most of the time, like, I'll already be talking to them, or if I'm not, then I'll reach out to them and talk to them. Depending on purchase size, sometimes I'll just like sweep some shit so they know I mean business and then talk to them. But the other way I find about great artists, there's a few. Honestly, Nice Day Jules has been amazing, like helping me curate some new people. One of the beauties about O'Peppin's and Jack's curation is, and the community's curation, I should say, but Jack is instrumental. Is not only some like amazing artists I love, like Timbers is on my show this week, and he's one of the artists, and many of the artists I'm a collector of. He introduced me to like all kinds of new artists, and so what I'd say is I'm constantly have a pipeline now, and people are super nice, like in a way, like people like go out of their way to help introduce me to artists because I try to help artists and work with artists. So I've been so blessed lately. Is like if I don't know them, which often I have, like I don't want to trade away from myself, but like one of the things I've learned is like I used to like talk about people all the time before I like owned them, and then I'd be like, "Fuck, I like own no pieces." I was like anyone else, and now I'm like, so there's certain artists like that I've fucked with, and then the universe is like, now's the time. So that's really kind of the way I think about it, if that's helpful.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for those questions, Rachel. Wow. So much to unpack in all that you said. Like, if you're here in this space, you need to go back and re-listen to this and write some notes. These nuggets and these insights are so important. I think artists focus so much on creating that forget a little bit of the connecting side with collectors. And I'm guilty of that too. And I think this is a healthy conversation about how to create some space where you can talk to the people that vibe with your work. And I think that's so important.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something terrible. When I came in this industry, I was like, oh, the best art will win. This is art collecting. Like, are you going to just fucking buy the best art? No. Art is a threshold issue. What I mean by that, the art has to be above an acceptable threshold. Beyond that, it's all this other stuff.
I want to jump in real quick on that. I agree 100%. I have a monitor, a blacked out monitor upstairs in our house, and I walk by it multiple times a day. And what I just realized is the pieces, I bought 10 pieces on it that rotate. I didn't necessarily pick the 10 favorite pieces for their art. I didn't do this intentional, but I didn't necessarily pick what an art critic would say are the 10 best pieces I own. I actually, without realizing it, picked 10 pieces of artists
We're hot
that I
right now.
vibe with, and or
Yeah.
no, artists I actually had in real life experiences with. So so
Yeah.
I walk up and I see the work, and it
That's right.
brings me back
You think about
to
them.
when I
Yeah.
was hanging out with that person, and I smile, and I get a positive, like a kick of dopamine or something, and I move on, and I walk back by, and so so today I came to the top of the stairs, and there was just a piece that cost me like not very much. I mean, it was, I don't even know, but I smiled because I remembered having dinner with this person, in New York. And so yeah, the art has to hit a threshold, but you're right. It's all about something else. It's something much more than that,
Yeah.
right?
These other things, community, connection, what people want to have. I always tell artists, give people this set of words that they can tell their friends about, that show them why it's special, rather than having X dollars. I own this piece, and that makes me special because this is the XYZ artist who did that. You have to give them the brag. I hate to say it. You have to give them the simple words to go with the piece that they tell their friends at a party, and they feel cool doing so. I hate to say it, but that's just, again, reality. Because it's a positional asset. Art is, hey, like these people like who have billions of dollars. It's basically like, yo, I now own this thing that you don't. That's better than having $1 million. I hate to put it that way, but that's sort of like how to think about the rich mind, in my opinion.
That's quotable. That's tweetable.
I
OG,
got the best compliment from Jack the other day. I was like, hey, this album explaining checks. He's like, that was amazing. And I'm like, do you think I should tweet that? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you weren't reading that? I'm like, no. And so I was like, fuck, man, that's dope. He thought I was reading when I was just talking.
you are a wealth of knowledge and you have
Thank you.
so much to unpack. It feels like, to cut you off and to close, it feels short. It felt like we were just on for 10 minutes, and I feel like we should have gone for a lot longer, but we want to respect your
I can
time.
go 15 more minutes.
Hey, can we get Zach on? Annie, Zach just
Yeah,
requested. Can we
let's
get Zach
do it.
on?
We
Zach,
Our
love
friend that
Zach.
I haven't heard from him for a while.
I know we love Zach.
which,
Hey,
Uh,
Zach.
which Zach?
Zach left.
uh,
Okay,
Zach was
great.
collector and also creator, and so this is. Hello, Zach. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Welcome to the stage.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for joining us up here.
of course. Nice to see everybody. I wanted to challenge you on the last statement you made about collecting. And while I understand all the things that you're talking about in terms of what goes into the value of art in terms of reality, I don't think it will always be the same as it is now. Imagine in the future where galleries and displays have much more significance. A lot of the factors that might be holding up value now might not in the future. At the end of the day, somebody has to look at that. Somebody has to experience it. And if people, collections are going to have a lot of value based on how they're curated, how the artwork weaves together, the thought process the collectors made while they're collecting that art, and how they can meaningfully communicate what they have. And it's not just going to be a mishmash of stuff in a wallet. And so I believe that the actual artwork will be more meaningful, what the actual art is. And while a lot of that is subjective, I think that the collections that are going to ultimately have a lot of value are the ones that are able to communicate and touch people in a way that they've been put together really based on that main factor of the quality of the art.
See, my answer to that is like, let's look at history, because art's been around a while. When you hear about Van Gogh, everyone knows about how he cut his ear off. When you hear about Andy Warhol, you hear about all these stories. If you look at a Jackson Pollock, most people are like, oh, I could have fucking done that. Then you hear the narrative around it. So I'm basing mine on like, look, if you look at art again historically, the narrative and the character of the artist was a big part. And in the later years, like the discussions actually emphasize that stuff. Like they emphasize these kind of crazy stories. So look, here's the great news. I am wrong all the fucking time. And there's a million different things that can be right. And so what you're saying is absolutely like super thoughtful. How collections are presented has a massive impact on value, and we haven't done as good a job. And if you go to my collecting, like I said, what I'm focused on are the collections from an artist presented, like checks, Opepin, pianos, Players Edition, and these variety of others that I've collected, because you're so right. Like you have to tell a story, And you have to tell a story of why you, just as much as an artist, like why, as a collector, why do I love this group of pieces? Why did I do this? So I'm not in any way saying that that is not 1,000,000% correct and 1,000,000% overlooked. So I totally agree. I just think like, look, in a way, there's some part of being an artist. You're like not a celebrity per se, but like people have these images in their head and you want them to feel just like almost like a, I don't know. I'm going to say something wrong and not precisely correct, but like some like rock star celebrity element to like being an artist and your sort of stories and it goes in the work. So I don't know. I just think like you're right, but it's not exclusive of me potentially being right and those two things can coexist. Does that make sense or no?
Totally. And I understand that. I agree. You know, there's so much that goes into selling art beyond just the artwork. And that's obviously the challenge of the artist. You know, probably creating the artwork is one of the easier aspects for the artist because that's what they're comfortable doing. Whereas everything else going around it is, you know, the
Yeah,
stuff
you
that
nailed it. That's why
is
galleries
that.
existed for so long. Because, it's typically not what you see in like an OSF or a Jack or some of these people of like where their like mindset can handle both. It's look, most artists don't want to fuck with any of that. It creates all these weird dynamics. They're like negotiating price with people. So I think it comes not only is it like hard a priori, it's like extra hard because the mind that lets you be free to create beautiful things is the unstructured mind. And in my opinion, once again, I'm not saying it can't be. This is not exclusive always, but and so then to go and start having to negotiate about like.
Sorry, friends. Sorry, OG. I hope you can talk now. Sorry.
Oh my god, I was like yakking on. Oh
No, in
shit.
my
Ah,
defense of
sorry.
bringing someone else up, the buttons are
Uh,
just so together. I'm
did
sorry,
you
but
miss
you were
every, did I
on a
miss
roll.
everything? What did you miss?
So
What did
we
I
missed
end?
half of it, yeah. Just like 2 seconds.
Yeah, so it's, fuck, blame it on the weed. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, sorry. I think I was saying, I don't know. Remind me, prompt me. I can't remember now. I was looking at a piece of art I made, so my mind got distracted.
I'm sorry.
No, no.
You were in response to this powerful conversation of the reality versus art in response to Sack.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I was just saying like how brutal. Yeah, the unstructured mind that creates art typically, or the soul, the pain in the soul, or the authenticity. What it takes is like an entirely different skill set than like structuring an art ecosystem and dealing with like customer service and sales and logistics. So I think like that's why the traditional art world ended up in the structure it is, because like most artists don't want to fuck with that.
We totally agree. And it's not that we don't, it's that sometimes our mind is
That's what I'm saying.
unprepared.
They're not structured
That's
to
right.
do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's like
Right.
asking me to look, it's like me making fun of myself. Like I'm just terrible at certain things. And like for whatever reason, for me, they're brutally hard. And generally the personality set that is great at art, it's very rare that that overlaps with like a very structured corporate sales. Like it's just not a common, statistically speaking, set of characteristics that come together. So that's the reality. Like, you know?
I was just going to add, I think that my purpose in what I was saying is, I think for me, if I look through a gallery that somebody's put up and they haven't thoughtfully, right now, you know, I think there's a shortage of really well done curated galleries because it's so hard. It takes so much time. The tools are cumbersome like that. I hope will improve greatly in the future. So I don't think that's the fault of the collectors, but I also think when I look at a collection, it can be very apparent how that person collects. And I think that over time, when these tools get better, the way that somebody puts together collections, if they've been collecting in a super meaningful way over time, that is going to carry a lot more weight than I believe it does now. Whereas now people can collect and people might get excited about what they're collecting because maybe of the money that they've poured into it. But at the end of the day, when you have to present it in a way and the price tags don't sit next to the art, it's not gonna. People are gonna look at that and they're gonna have the opposite effect. They're gonna be like, "Are you kidding me?" And maybe it'll be a
You
topic of conversation,
know?
but it's gonna be a lot harder when you got to stand by what you've collected and you put it all together and you're presenting it to people.
Check out, I never like talk about my own shit, but check out 452B Reserve on OpenSea and see what you think of that collection. Um, Number two, I totally agree. I think it's really hard now. And again, like curate the way people are like, oh, there shouldn't be curation. I actually like, for the exact reason you're saying, I think like, look, there's like millions of NFTs and it basically takes full time looking at this shit to like know what's up. And so, and looking at a ton of it. Like when I started collecting tattoos, I like would look at like that's what call me like thousands and thousands of the same image done over and over to know what's cool or not. And so I think what you're pointing in a more general sense is getting back to your earlier discussion is like to scale this industry, we need stuff presented in a cohesive manner that's investable and tells a story. And we haven't done a great job of that. I mean, fuck yeah. And it has to be tailored to that audience. So that's why the same curator doing three different things should come up with three different mixes if they're talented to speak to those audiences, and they should curate for the audiences that they know and that often it doesn't mean like what you yourself are. I often say like the way I do shit, like assume nobody's stupid enough to do it that way. So like think about how others do shit. And so that's what I think, and what you're making the point of is like, absolutely, nobody wants to go, like, let's go see the, like, random El Wapo collection, and it's like 10 fucking things that are just like, yo, I was like shit canned and bought this NFT. Like, it's like, why the fuck am I gonna come look at that? So, I reinforce and echo your sentiment and the importance of, look, in a way, everything's marketing and narrative. I hate to say it, not like again overstating it, but things that don't have a cohesive narrative that make people feel a visceral way of why this is this way. That's why I'm always asking artists. Like they're like, I'm going to do this mechanism. I'm like, why? Why that one? And if you don't have a good answer, like again, not to, I'm doing this show with Jack in 15 minutes, 16 minutes. I have a 90-minute teach with Jack after this, and Jaleel and Ken Sawyer and Shrimpy. But if you look at Jack's various mechanisms of like how checks work or O'Peppin's, it's all very like robust and makes sense and makes a statement about the satire and how the process works. And so I think it's even one step deeper. Like you need to have a why for everything. There's this great book I read years ago by Simon Sinek. It's like start with why. Humans need a why. This is dated, but they're like, if you're at work and you go to the front of the photocopy line and like butt in, people are like, oh, go fuck yourself. But if you're like, hey, I really need to make this photocopy urgently for the boss, they're like, okay, go ahead. You're like standing in line at the airport, if somebody like pushes in front of you to go through security, you're like, what the fuck, bro? But if they're like, hey, I'm sorry, my flight's like super late, can I go? You're like, go ahead. So it's just how we work. So we need a why. And the better the why is articulated. I see Pindar's on here. Like Pindar and I work together on a lot of stuff. And we characterize his work with 5 words. On-chain, AI, robotics, innovation, and puzzles. If something has those 5 things, it's a Pindar. Why? Because Pindar has a whole bunch of explanations why that's a perfect fit for him. So when you assess a piece in Pindar's universe, you say, does it have these things? The more of them it has, the more to Pindar's essence it is.
Wow, that was quotable, tweetable again. Yours did fire, and I'm just so honored
Thank
that
you.
that you've given us more of your time. And I know that you have to go. We did
Yeah,
have a
I got jump
so
14 minutes. Yeah, I'll take one more quick one. In my time, 10:30. It's 10:16. I have now a big
we understand.
five-way
So
combo. So,
we can cut it short so that you can
oh,
you
that's
know
it. But this is a real joy, and thanks for letting me. I do best just like speaking in the moment or whatever, so I don't overthink. I can't ever listen to my own shows back. They drive me crazy to hear my own voice and shit. So I much prefer just to go like freestyle. So thank you, and I really appreciate all the kind words and having me here and all the interesting questions. Thanks.
well, you have been amazing. You have been a wealth of knowledge. Matt, any last
Thank you.
words? I just want to apologize to Ashton, who did come up, but
Oh,
does
hit
know
me, hit
that
me. No, no, go, go, go. Ask the question. Let's see if
oh,
we can squeeze it in.
Ashton, if you can shortly squeeze it in.
Oh no, it's not a quick question. It's more like the space has been very formative. Oh, by the way, hi OG. Yeah, it's
Hi.
been formative to hey, what's up? Sorry, it's been very formative and just hearing both sides of Matt and OG and everyone else. And just wanted to say thank you. Lots to think about. Definitely gonna be listening to space again. And yeah, just thanks a lot for the space.
Dope. All right, all. So much, so fun. Hope we can do it again sometime. Really
Oh,
appreciate you.
OG,
Have a
thank you
great
so
day.
much.
Yeah.
OG, thank you so much, brother. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh,
Have a
it's my
great rest of
pleasure.
the day.
Appreciate
And you're a
you.
legend to be able to run this right up against your show. I am so impressed, man.
Fuck.
Have a great one. Thanks
or
all.
just stupid and don't know how to
Yeah.
plan.
It's a
All
fine
right.
line,
Much
right?
love.
All right,
Yeah,
brother. Bye.
love. Talk soon.
Talk soon, OG. For those that came and are here listening, feel free to go back and listen, write some notes. I know for sure I'll be doing that, and I'll be quoting so much about this because I feel like he shares some nuggets for artists that I think is very important. Zach, you make a fair statement. Rachel had some great questions that you want to go back and listen to. But if you have any questions, you can put them down here at the on the chat box, and I'm sure he's going to take a look because he responds very quickly when he has time to post. And so feel free to reach out. For those that don't know, we do have a Discord, and on that Discord, we have a share button, a share channel for you to share your art, which we post. But, Matt, do you want to tell them about our exciting new initiative?
Yeah, sure. So, the team has been working really hard and we have a mentorship program and, it's been so great to watch the team work through it. It's been led by, Mike, Paul, and Annie. And, we've got 5 mentors that are amazing. Like I'm so proud of the group that we put together and check, Light.art or the Miyamo Art Twitter thread. And we are now looking for, mentees. And this is the first round. And, I'm sure we'll make a few mistakes, but we're going to do the best we can. We're going to organize it. We're going to, I think we'll do a pretty good job. I believe in our team. And then look forward to rounds in the future as well. So if this is something that interests you or you have a friend that you think could benefit from it, get your name in and then, and we'll go from there. What'd I miss, Annie?
I think you covered it. Please take a look at our post. I did put it up here and also at the top box. If you want to apply and be a mentee, we are looking for the applicants or applications to pair up the mentors with the mentee. And so we're looking forward to what that looks like. In the future weeks, we'll be interviewing or having a space specifically for you to hear from the mentors and their heart behind being a mentor. And so I think that's important too. So stay tuned as we still narrow down this whole new initiative, which we're really, really excited. A lot of work behind the scenes, but we're very passionate about what we're doing here for the community, for artists. So if you don't know what we do, Light Art is a member of Mejamo Art, and we're here for the community, for artists, to empower you and to help you. And OG was such a powerful conversation with OG to empower artists and what we're doing. And so with that said, I don't have anything else, Matt.
Well,
And
hey, real quick, you got me, it's like you hit me up on that question and I was like, oh shit, there's stuff I should have mentioned. So, if you are interested in being a mentor or a mentee, you should look into this program. I didn't mean to just say we need mentees. We're going to provide, much like, OG talked about, structure and unstructured, and the artist can do best in, in the unstructured. We're going to provide the admin and all the support behind the scenes. And our goal is that is equally rewarding to the mentors and the mentees. If the mentors aren't as excited as the mentees, then we will not have fulfilled our goal. So this is something, I think is really cool. And again, I'm so proud of Mike, Paul, and Annie on this one, and I cannot wait to see what they do with it. That's about it, Annie. I'm ready to call this one a day if you are.
Thank you so much. And appreciate all of you who joined. Thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful that you're part of our community. And with that said, yeah, goodbye, friends. Thank you so much for being here. We are so happy that you came through. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.